Ever wonder how some people just like crack the code of going viral?
Yeah.
Today, we're going behind the scenes of one of YouTube's biggest hitters, Mr. Beast,
Yes.
to uncover the strategies he uses to captivate millions.
And what's wild is we're not just talking about random luck here.
Right.
Like, we've got our hands on a document that lays out his approach.
Okay.
And it's surprisingly calculated.
Calculated in a good way,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Like he's not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Exactly.
The first thing that jumped out at me was how much emphasis he puts on understanding the viewer's mindset before even thinking about cameras or editing.
It's all about decoding what makes people click.
Okay.
But specifically what makes people click in his niche.
Right.
And that's a key takeaway for anyone listening. You've got to become a student of your own audience.
So, like, how do we actually do that?
Okay.
The source mentions analyzing competitor videos, even using the word clickbait.
Right.
Which I have to admit I've fallen for a time or two.
Sure. Yeah.
How do we do it?
It's all about pattern recognition. When you're looking at other creators in your space, don't just watch for entertainment. Ask yourself, what kind of titles are grabbing my attention? What's visually appealing about their thumbnails? Are there recurring themes or video styles that seem to be working?
So it's like being a detective of attention.
Yes.
You're looking for clues about what your potential audience is already responding to.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant. But let's say you've nailed that initial click. The source then dives into this concept of retention, which honestly sounds a bit like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right. It's actually much less intimidating than it sounds. Retention simply means how long are you keeping those viewers engaged?
Okay.
Think of it this way. Someone clicks on your video.
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
But if they click off after 30 seconds, that's a signal to YouTube's algorithm that your content isn't holding their attention.
Right.
The longer people watch, the more YouTube says, hey, this is good stuff. Let's share it with more people.
It's like you're trying to keep a room full of puppies entertained.
Yeah.
You've got to keep throwing out those squeaky toys at just the right moment.
Yeah.
And speaking of moments, this source mentioned that Mr. Beast actually bakes specific tactics into his videos to maintain that engagement at different points.
Yes. He is deliberate about where those moments happen and what they look like. Sadly, our source didn't spill all the secrets on those specific tactics.
Okay.
But it did mention things like pattern interrupts.
What's that?
Unexpected changes in the video that keep viewers on their toes, and open loops where you tease something that's coming later to pique curiosity.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like leaving breadcrumbs throughout the video to make sure people stick around for the whole feast.
Exactly.
But let's get real for a second. Not all of us have Mr. Beast level budgets to throw at fancy cameras and editing software.
Right.
Does that mean we're doomed from the start?
Not at all. And that's something the source actually addressed directly. High production value doesn't have to mean expensive gear. It's more about mastering the basics.
So what are we talking about here? Spill the tea.
Good lighting, for starters.
Okay.
It can be as simple as opening a window or investing in a couple of affordable lamps. Clean audio, honestly, is more important than having the fanciest camera on the market.
Right.
People are much more forgiving of a slightly blurry video if they can actually hear what you're saying.
It's amazing how such simple things can make a world of difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, in today's world of short attention spans, fast-paced editing is key.
Absolutely. Speaking of fast-paced, one of the most actionable tips I got from the source was the power of the jump cut. You know those quick cuts that eliminate dead air and keep the energy high?
Yeah, it's a classic trick that's become almost ubiquitous in online content. It mimics that feeling of flipping through channels or scrolling through social media. Our brains are wired for that quick hit of information now.
And jump cuts are a perfect way to deliver it. Okay, so let's say we filmed this amazing, engaging, well-lit video. We're feeling good.
Right.
But now what?
Okay.
How do people actually find it in this vast sea of content?
This is where we move from the content itself to the art of optimization. The source spends a significant amount of time on titles, thumbnails, descriptions, all those elements that often get relegated to afterthoughts.
It's like building a beautiful house and then forgetting to put a front door on it.
Exactly.
No one's going to see all your hard work if they can't even find the entrance, right?
Exactly. Your title, for example, has to appeal to both humans and algorithms.
Right.
You need those keywords.
Right.
And tools like TubeBuddy can be incredibly helpful in identifying the right ones for your niche, but it can't just be a string of words.
Right.
It has to pique someone's interest.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to know what the source had to say about thumbnails. I feel like we've all been sucked in by those clickbaity ones.
Yeah.
But there's got to be an art to it.
The key takeaway is that a good thumbnail isn't just visually appealing.
Right.
It evokes emotion.
Okay.
It could be curiosity, excitement, even a touch of what's going on here.
Right.
It's about creating that split-second reaction that makes someone want to click.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So it's like channel your inner Mr. Beast thumbnail artist and don't be afraid to get a little creative, right?
Absolutely.
But then there's this whole other layer promoting your video beyond just hitting that upload button.
This is where cross-promotion comes in. And it's something the source emphasized heavily. Your potential audience isn't just sitting on YouTube waiting for your video to appear.
Right.
They're on social media, they're in online communities, they're reading blogs. You've got to go where they are.
It's like you're the hype person for your own content.
Exactly.
You've got to get the word out there.
But let's talk long game for a second. Virality is amazing, but building something sustainable, that's the dream, right?
Absolutely, and that's where consistency comes into play. This isn't just about pleasing the YouTube algorithm.
Okay.
It's about building trust with your audience. They need to know they can rely on you to deliver quality content on a regular basis.
It's like dating. You wouldn't just ghost someone after the first date, right?
Exactly, and just like in a relationship, communication is key.
And in the world of content creation, that communication comes in the form of data analysis.
Data analysis, it's like the spinach of content creation.
Yeah.
We know it's good for us,
Right.
but it's not always the most exciting thing to dig into.
I get it. But what if I told you that those numbers are like having a direct conversation with your audience?
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Think about it. Each view, like comment, watch time, those aren't just random numbers. They represent real people interacting with your content. By paying attention to those interactions, you can start to see what's working, what's falling flat, and then use that feedback to make your content even better.
So instead of guessing what people want, we can actually see it in black and white.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's the power of platforms like YouTube. They give you so much data. It's like having a superpower. Let's say you're getting a ton of clicks on your thumbnails. Awesome. That means your visuals are on point. But then if people are bailing on your video after the first minute, that's telling you something needs to change in those crucial opening moments.
It's like we're playing detective with our own content, searching for clues to solve the case of why aren't people watching this masterpiece?
Exactly. And once you start looking at the data through that lens, it becomes a lot less daunting and a lot more empowering.
So where do we even begin? Are we talking spreadsheets and algorithms? Because that's where I tend to get lost.
Thankfully, it's not as complicated as it might seem. YouTube Analytics, you probably heard of it. It can be your best friend here. It breaks down all those juicy metrics, watch time, audience retention, click-through rates.
Okay, I have dabbled in YouTube Analytics, but I'll admit it can feel a little overwhelming. Where do you even start?
A great place to start is with your audience retention graph. It visually shows you where people are dropping off in your videos. If you're seeing a steep decline early on, maybe your intro is too long, or you're not hooking people with something intriguing right away.
That's a good point. I've definitely been guilty of rambling intros in the past.
We've all been there. You can also look at which videos are performing best and try to identify any common threads. Are they shorter, longer? More humorous data can reveal those patterns that might not be obvious at first glance.
It's like having a window into the minds of your viewers. You can see what they're responding to and tailor your content accordingly.
And that's the beauty of data-driven content creation. It takes the guesswork out of the equation and allows you to focus on what actually resonates with your audience.
So to circle back to Mr. Beast, do you think he's sitting there analyzing spreadsheets all day?
I'm sure he has a team for that, but I guarantee that even with a team, he's still looking at the data, understanding those insights, and using them to inform his creative decisions.
It's like he's got a secret weapon in his back pocket. Or maybe it's not so secret anymore. We're revealing all the tricks of the trade here. But speaking of secrets earlier, you mentioned that the source hinted at Mr. Beast using specific tactics to keep viewers glued to the screen. Did it get into any more detail about what those tactics actually look like in practice? It's like he's got this treasure map to audience engagement.
Right.
And we're trying to find the buried treasure.
Well, our source document didn't quite give us the whole map, but it did hint at some classic engagement-boosting techniques.
Okay.
One that immediately comes to mind is the well-placed cliffhanger.
Okay.
You know how at the end of a TV episode, they leave you hanging with some unresolved tension?
Oh, absolutely. It's like they're dangling a delicious donut in front of you and then snatching it away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a cliffhanger in action, and it works just as well in the YouTube world.
Right.
tease something intriguing or unexpected at the end of a segment. It could be a question, a surprising fact, or even a quick visual to keep those viewers hooked for what comes next.
So it's all about creating that I need to know what happens next feeling.
Exactly. Another tactic that works wonders is humor. A well-timed joke or a funny observation can really break up the flow and make even the densest content more digestible.
I'm all for adding more humor to the world. It's like the spice of content creation. But I imagine it has to be the right kind of humor, right?
You're spot on. The humor needs to feel authentic to your brand and your audience. A forced joke is worse than no joke at all. It's about finding those organic moments of levity.
Makes sense. Now, I've also noticed that a lot of successful YouTubers are really good at incorporating visuals that tell a story.
Ah, yes, visual storytelling. It's incredibly important, especially in today's world of shrinking attention spans. People want to see things, not just hear about them. Think about using B-roll footage animations, screen recordings, anything that can make your content more visually appealing and engaging.
It's like the difference between reading a textbook and watching a documentary.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the power of music and sound effects. The right soundtrack can really enhance the mood and energy of your video.
Oh, absolutely. The right music can make you feel like you're on top of the world.
Speaking of structure, another tactic that Mr. Beast seems to use effectively is thinking of his videos as mini productions.
Mini productions? What do you mean by that?
Instead of just having one continuous flow, he breaks his videos down into distinct segments, each with its own purpose and flavor.
So like chapters in a book.
Precisely. It's a great way to keep the content feeling fresh and prevent viewers from getting bored. And within those segments, you can vary the pacing, switch up the visuals, and even change your tone of voice to keep things interesting. The name of the game is to avoid monotony.
It's like you're becoming a master chef of content, carefully crafting each ingredient to create a delicious and satisfying experience for your viewers.
I love that analogy. And just like with cooking, the more you experiment and refine your recipe, the better your results will be.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like we've gone from zero to hero in the world of YouTube strategy.
And the best part is that these principles apply whether you're aiming for millions of views or simply trying to connect with a smaller niche audience. It all comes down to understanding your audience, crafting compelling content, optimizing for visibility, and staying consistent.
And of course, having a little fun along the way. Because what's the point of all this if you're not enjoying the process right?
Absolutely. Passion is contagious, and it shines through in the content you create.
So to wrap things up, it's clear that Mr. Beast's success isn't just about luck or even a big budget. It's about approaching content creation with intentionality and strategy.
He's not just hitting record and hoping for the best. He's thinking about viewer psychology. He's optimizing for the algorithm, and he's constantly analyzing his data to improve.
He's playing chess, while the rest of us are playing checkers.
Precisely. But the good news is that we can all learn from his playbook. By understanding the strategies he uses, we can all up our content creation game and start creating videos that truly connect.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll be featuring your channel on a future episode of The Deep Dive. That's all the time we have for today, folks. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the fascinating world of topic for next episode. Until next time.